Good morning. Mr. Fox, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are about to provide is true and accurate?
I do.
Please state and spell your name and provide your address for the record.
Timothy Fox, TIMOTHY My business address is 401 North Main Street, Charles City, Iowa 50616.
Thank you. And we have the correct P&Z file. Are we good? Good. Thank you. All right. Mr. Fox, can you describe the current use of your property and any plans you may have for a different use in the future?
The current use of the property is agricultural. Has been agricultural with the same renter since 1945. And in 1998, I came to Charles City and we were looking for additional industrial ground. And it took us 20 years to get to this parcel to make it the Avenue of the Saints Development Park. The reason it took so long was because the landowner could not find a suitable 1031 land exchange. And this happened in 2018, and we were able to take possession of it. The landowner of record is Charles City Area Development Corporation for the Avenue of the Saints Development Park. But the City of Charles City, through the South Grand Tax Income and Financing District, paid the $2,156,000 for the parcel, which is 75.34 acres.
Thank you. It was a very specific description. Appreciate it. So moving to a general description of the property, are there buildings or structures?
There are no buildings or structures.
Drainage tile, other underground installations such as water line, natural gas lines, telecommunication facilities, electrical lines, any other?
The only one I can think of is that there is water and sewer lines leading to the edge of the property.
Are there any streams or bodies of water or other noteworthy terrain features?
There is a wetland which is jurisdictional under the Army Corps of Engineers. It's about, I think it's about 0.81 acres. But our engineers said this would be able to be mitigated within 90 days if we have a client.
Okay. Can you give us a description as to where the wetland is on the property?
As you come out the driveway for Southgate Drive there.
Can we get Mr. Fox a pointer?
Your Honor, it's me.
Yes, John.
I note that I think last night Mr. Timothy Scott Fox filed some hearing exhibits, and I wonder if they would be helpful as he answers questions.
Yeah, okay. I would say it's right in here.
Okay. So on the western edge of the property?
Yes.
On the south quarter-ish. Okay. Can we pull up his hearing exhibits? Okay. While they're doing that, any timber or forest?
There are a few trees, but I would not construe them as a forest.
Right. Any easements held by a third party?
The electrical easements. And then there's two natural gas pipeline easements running east to west, owned by Northern Natural Gas.
Any other feature or condition that might not be readily apparent and that might affect or be affected by the proposed project?
Well, you mean physically regarding the land?
Yeah.
Well, we have more land taken out of production. We're not sure if we can meet the site selection criteria. We were certified as an industrial site through the Iowa Certified Sites Program in 2020. And there are only 29 of these in Iowa. And it is rather an exacting process. It's very time consuming. Quite frankly, it's expensive. but we have a certified site, and we feel that the presence of the hazardous liquid pipeline would nullify our ability to market the parcel effectively.
Okay. Can you describe what a certified site is?
It means it's done all the due diligence of geotechnical, cultural, archaeological, utilities. There's the overhead view of the site.
Thank you.
All of those things that constitute due diligence in making a site shovel ready.
It is zoned agriculture or zoned?
No, it is zoned M2 general manufacturing.
Okay, so it's effectively a parcel set up, ready to develop.
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe any specific concerns you may have or any recommendation you have for the board to address your concerns?
Our concern is that site selection among corporate entities relies on excludability. You want to exclude as many people as you can when you issue a request for proposal or your request for information, and the presence of a hazardous liquid pipeline vis-a-vis a site that does not have a hazardous liquid pipeline leads us to be, in our estimation, to be rejected based on the presence of the pipeline. It's one more indicator in nullifying a project going forward.
Do you recommend an alternate route for the proposed line? And if so, describe that route and its advantages or disadvantages.
I should say that my board is neutral on the position of hazardous liquid pipeline. However, we do object to the location. And we feel that this could have been easily mitigated by going to the south side of the Avenue of the Saints. Over here, where you have farmland, you have...
So I appreciate you using the pointer, but so that we have this on the record as well, can we also just describe it?
Oh, the eastern side, or the southern side of the Avenue of the Saints four-lane intersection at egress/ingress number 218.
Thank you.
Now, that's not perfect because we're kind of foisting our situation on somebody else, and we want to be good neighbors. But at the same time, there's compelling public interest in moving that pipeline from the certified industrial site. If you go up here, the pipeline goes past neighborhoods and residences and some housing developments, either...
And can you just give us brief directional descriptions?
Northeast, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
As you traverse northeast, you'll find residential neighborhoods and planned housing developments. If you go to the west, which I can't show on the pointer, we run into a very heavily concentrated population, which I outlined in my letter to the board of October 26, 2022.
Can we put the KMZ back up for this portion?
Yeah, I've got some questions too. Can we put the KMZ back up?
And Mr. Fox, when we get that TMZ back up, if you could just with your pointer, I'm curious on the two other pipelines that you stated are there, if you know kind of approximately where they run.
There they are.
And you said
They run right next to where Summit proposes to put the pipeline.
Okay, and you said they go east-west.
Yes.
Lusky, do you by chance have that one? That map with the other two pipelines on it, or not? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll likely have some follow-up questions, but we want to make sure we give the parties a chance to ask questions quickly. So thank you, Mr. Fox. Parties? Mr. Taylor? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Whipple actually beat you by a hair. All right.
Mr. Fox, my name's Tim Whipple, and I represent a number of counties, including Floyd County. And I wanted to just ask staff if they could bring up the hearing exhibit that Mr. Fox filed last night again. I want to talk a little bit more for the record with you about what a certified site is. Could you describe the contents of your hearing exhibit, Mr. Fox, and scroll slowly through the remainder of it for us?
All right, well, here's the map of Charles City showing that the Avenue of the Saints is a pretty major thoroughfare, and we happen to have an industrial park abutting it, and we feel that that renders the site very competitive.
Can you go to the next page? So we looked at this image already. Can you keep going? What is this part of your hearing exhibit?
This is a letter from Lindsay Cannon at Quest Site Solutions, who contracts with the Iowa Economic Development Authority to operate its Certified Sites program.
So the Certified Site program is a state program, is that right?
That is correct.
And it's run by the Economic Development Authority, correct?
Correct.
And can you take us through a summary of the requirements to meet a site certification?
As you can see on the screen, the site must be a minimum of 50 acres, of which 80% of the acreage must be contiguous. We had 65.09 total developable acres. Keep going, please. So hold it. Oh, that part does not apply. We did not lease the property. We had an option to purchase at the time that we were certified on January 7th, 2020. Okay, keep going, please. Must be for sale as industrial use, free of any concerns, right-of-ways. Must be located outside the 100-year floodplain. This property is outside the 500-year floodplain. Environmental conditions have to be complied with, and we had no environmental conditions resulting from our Phase 1 environmental survey assessment. The next portion talks about the watershed area, 0.1 acres of jurisdictional and 0.32 acres of non-jurisdictional. There were no endangered species or threatened species on the parcel.
What?
There were no significant archaeological findings. We did a geotechnical survey, and the soil structures were found to be compliant with industrial use. Needing to be close to a 4-lane highway, the entrance to the Avenue of the Saints Park is 600 feet from the egress point of the Avenue of the Saints. Must be served by electrical. There's a 69 kV line, and there is a 12.5 kV line adjacent to the property. Natural gas, we have about 2,400 feet of 4-inch line to run before the park can be served. That's estimated to cost $62,000. If we have a big user needing the 10,000 million cubic feet per month, we have a 2.94 town border station upgrade required. Water capacities were okay, sewer capacities were okay. We're fortunate that the city ran water and sewer when the private developer put the street in the late 1990s. And our fiber communication. And the site concept plan, which follows, is the third page after this one.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. So, how long did it take you to obtain that certification?
About 14 months.
And how much would you say it costs to go through that process with the state?
Our costs, out-of-pocket costs, were about $50,000. And, of course, significant staff time that we could allocate expense toward. But I would say about $50,000 would be a good estimate.
Would you say there are any similar sites in your community that you could certify through this program like this?
No. In 2015, we tried to certify the Oliver Development Park, which is the site of the former White Farm Equipment Dynasty. And we couldn't do it because it was contaminated environmentally. And we went through the process and didn't get a score because we didn't have the site cleaned up. We've since sold that site. We have a Southwest Development Park, which has 19.08 acres left, and we have decided to use that for housing because we have, like every rural community, a big demand for housing. So we're actually reluctantly giving up that industrial space. And the lots did not work for 21st century economic development projects, and that 1908 acres irregularly shaped is just too small.
So you need at least 50 total acres contiguous, correct?
Yes.
And are you concerned that this project would destroy that contiguity requirement?
Yes, I think that puts us down about 47 some acres.
And are you concerned that this would destroy the requirement for the parcel to be free of rights-of-way, easements, judgments, liens, and restrictive covenants?
Yes.
And if the marketability of the site is destroyed or impacted, what is the impact on the Charles City community?
It really impacts the community competitiveness in a negative fashion. We've worked really hard to get this far. We paid a lot of money for this site. The taxpayers paid a lot of money for this site. And we feel that, once again, the excludability factor of the presence of the pipeline will harm us immeasurably.
Let's talk a little bit about the public investment. Now, I think you said that there was about $2.1 million invested in the property by the city.
Correct.
And the city issued a bond for that amount?
No, they use tax increment financing dollars.
And can't you issue bonds under the tax increment financing program?
I'm not sure exactly how they financed it.
How much other public investment has gone into the site in terms of sewer, water, city services. Do you know how much else the city has invested to make the site developable?
They really haven't invested anything since the land purchase.
Okay. And is there anything in the letter that you submitted on October 26, 2022 that is out of date or that you'd like to supplement, or do you stand by the objection that you made in October?
No, my board stands by that letter.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Fox. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whipple. Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Fox, I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. And first of all, do you own this property or does some entity own the property?
Charles City Area Development Corporation owns the property.
Okay. And are you an official with the Development Authority? Or?
I am the Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you. I was just trying to figure that out.
Yes. We're a 501c6, not-for-profit, multi-community development organization. And in 2021, we were named an accredited economic development organization by the International Economic Development Council. At that time, we were the 69th organization in the world that has met the test.
Okay. So is the actual owner of the property the Development Corporation?
Yes.
Looking at the KMZ file, it looks like the proposed pipeline would go east to west across sort of the northern part of the property. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And the proposed plans would be to use all of that sort of L-shaped property for the development?
Yes.
So the pipeline would seriously cut into the development of that property?
We believe so, yes.
On the north edge of the photo, there's some sort of construction or development up there. What is that?
That's the Cedar Valley Transportation Center. It's a joint state, local, and regional maintenance depot.
Okay. So people would be around there on a regular basis?
Yes.
But how far is that from the pipeline mouth?
I couldn't say.
And then Mr. Long advises me that perhaps the board staff could indicate a measurement, the distance.
$354.1 feet.
Thank you. And then there's a major north-south highway or road there.
Yes.
What is that?
That is South Grand Avenue, also US 218.
Okay. Is that a Charles City address?
Yes.
And then just to the east of that street and south of the pipeline route, there's another, some sort of building or something. What is
Yes.
that?
That is Hog Slat Incorporated.
And is that a business?
Yes.
And the people would be around there on a regular basis?
True.
Okay. And that looks even much closer than the other development on the north, would you agree?
Yes.
So if the pipeline went in, what would happen to your certification as an industrial site and your plans to develop that site?
That, once again, sir, is one of the unknowns. We don't know how Quest Site Solutions is going to interpret the presence of a hazardous liquid pipeline. And we think that, I won't go there, never mind.
Do you understand that if the pipeline is installed there, that nothing could be built on the pipeline easement?
True, yes.
And would that be a major problem for you?
Theoretically, it could be.
Do you have any specific plans developed for, where buildings would be, where streets would be, and so on in this area if it's developed?
We have not done that up to this juncture because we're looking for somebody in the south part of the parcel that needs 40 to 50 acres. And we would do our streets and layout and everything after that.
So would you anticipate it would just be one entity that would be developing there, or would there be maybe several?
All depends on how the first one goes.
And it sounds like from what you told Mr. Whipple that you've already rezoned this area from ag to manufacturing.
That is correct.
And that was a significant undertaking, I imagine.
No, it really wasn't bad at all. It just took 90 days as per usual.
Is that in the county or is it in city limits?
It's within the corporate limits of Charles City, Iowa.
So the pipe, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Which, to my way of looking at the maps, is an uncommon occurrence vis-a-vis this project. And we don't think that a pipeline belongs in the corporate limits of any municipality.
Right. And so like many communities, Charles City has annexed land into the city limits with the plan of expanding and developing and bringing in industries and housing.
That is correct.
And you said that tax increment financing was used to acquire the land?
Yes.
And it's my understanding that tax increment financing really wouldn't work until, by work I mean return money to the city until the land is actually developed.
Until something's built, yes.
Because the development would then defer the taxes back to the city.
Yes.
Did you talk to any summit representatives about signing an easement or alternative routes, that kind of thing?
Yes, we've had several meetings and conversations with Summit.
What was the nature of those conversations?
Well, our take, as you may well imagine, was to get the route moved. And they said that a federal statute prohibited them from moving the route because it already was in a transportation corridor. So when that transpired, we tried to look at alternative routes on the parcel itself, but no really considerations of moving it off our property.
So someone would negotiate with you at all on that?
No, sir.
The person who wrote me the letter was like, man,
The route was the route.
not. I mean, the person who emailed me
Before
the
Summit had determined
letter
that particular route,
was like,
did anybody from Summit contact you or anybody from your organization saying, yeah, we want to come through here, before they actually had their route laid out?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
So,
Did you have any anticipation of when this property would be developed, once Charles City acquired it?
Well, we did acquire it in 2020, and we are working as hard as we can to market the site. Print, a lot of social media, and we also bought a billboard up on Highway 27, right next to the park as you're coming north. So we're fully engaged in marketing the site. We've had several people interested, but for one reason or another, it didn't work out.
Are you optimistic that it will be developed fairly soon if there's no pipeline there?
I'm hopeful.
why are we asking questions?
Development people are always optimistic, aren't they? You said that there's a wetland
I want to say it's one fucking acre.
south of the pipeline route. Can you point that out again, please?
Right in there.
Okay. So is that on your property or is it on that?
No, that's our property.
Okay. And that was not a problem as far as the certification of the industrial site?
We don't anticipate that to be the case.
You said there are water and sewer lines there already.
Yes,
Were they put in contemplation of developing this area, or were they there already for some other reason?
they were there. See the street that's coming in, which is Southgate Drive, and as you go north, it's Boulder Avenue. The developer, the previous owner, put the street in, and the city ran water and sewer to the end of the stub street.
Okay, so a previous owner also had the idea of perhaps developing this area.
Yes,
If the property were to be developed, as you hope, would that require more sewer, water, gas, that kind of thing?
all
Lines.
depends on the parameters of the project.
Okay.
We know that we have water and sewer capacity for most projects in the marketplace.
Okay. I think that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Your Honor. I note that although I had Ms. Hertz's name tag up, I'm going to be asking questions of Mr. Fox on behalf of the Republican legislators interveners for justice, for whom I'm standing in as their attorney is unable to be here today.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Fox.
Right.
Just to go back and confirm that this particular parcel is part of a larger plan that's being developed by the Charles City Area Development Corporation, correct?
You're gonna have to expound upon that a little bit.
Well, maybe you can just tell me what's the relationship between this particular parcel, the Avenue of the Saints Development Park, and the Charles City Development Corporation?
Well, this is really our only shot because we don't have any other industrial ground, and frankly, unless you annex at the perimeters of the community, there's no available industrial ground, and then we cannot afford to run utilities to the perimeter of the community. So we put all our eggs in this basket.
How long has the Charles City Area Development Corporation been in existence?
Since 1973, it's our 50th anniversary on December 19th.
And does the Development Corporation have a long-term strategic plan?
Yes, we have a 2017 to 22 strategic plan, which we shaped with the direction of IEDA Director Debbie Durham, who said to be competitive, you need a certified site. So within 3 years, we had a certified site. And we're also updating our strategic plan for this year, and I'm just waiting for a first draft.
Can you tell me about the types of economic development that have occurred in the Charles City area recently?
Well, we have 5 projects at present, which is pretty good for a town of 7,500. We have an expansion at the Floyd County Medical Center. We have a career academy at the North Iowa Area Community College. We have a project that is in fact building out onto Main Street in the Pure Prairie Poultry, and then we have expansions at Zoetis and Cambridge Charles City Incorporated. We anticipate 500 new jobs in the next 18 months.
Can you tell me a little bit more? As you said, 500 new jobs. What additional kinds of economic impact are you anticipating from this growth?
Well, we track very carefully our weekly manufacturing wage, and we tend to run between 5th and 10th in Iowa for average weekly manufacturing wage, which is very commendable in that we're not industrialized, we're not unionized, and we're not urbanized. So the manufacturing payroll will, of course, go up considerably, and we're pretty excited about the presence of employers willing to invest in Charles City.
Have there been any population changes?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay. What kinds of challenges have you been facing with the economic development?
Workforce development is probably our major negative indice. We are working programs like everybody's working, but nobody's found the magic solution. So we've kind of undertaken a strategy of getting our manufacturers more involved with job training opportunities to train the people they already have to get promoted and keep the talent pipeline going.
And you believe that this particular development is crucial to making all the rest of that happen?
I don't know if there's a correlation there, but we would like to see a development with, a decent number of jobs. And when you're talking projects that are 40 acres, you tend to have a lot of capital investment. Some of the projects that we have issued requests for information for, or we're not successful in getting, kind of highlight the challenges that we have based upon the configuration of the site.
Can you describe some of those projects?
One project, no, I can't because they're proprietary to the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and I don't want to divulge somebody's confidentiality by giving you project details. However, one project we didn't have enough water capacity, another project, we did not have enough electrical capacity and would have had to buy a substation. And the third one, we made it to the third round until they asked for money, and we don't have any, so we got cut.
Is there anything else about the Charles City Area Development Corporation or just development in general in that area that you think the board should know when they consider this?
Pardon me?
Are there any other factors or any other information about the Charles City Area Development Corporation that you think the board should know about?
I think we're a competent organization. Our goal is to be as competitive as possible. Our tagline is "We compete, you win." And this site hones our competitiveness as we seek to develop it responsibly and ideally without a carbon pipeline.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. That concludes my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, OCA.
Thank you, Board Chair. Just a point of clarification. Do we need to move admission of his hearing exhibits?
Yes, I believe we do.
Well,
Would you like to have your exhibits admitted? Yes. Mr. Fox, you want to have your exhibits admitted to the record?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
please.
Mr. Fox has moved his exhibits be admitted to the record. Is there objection from any of the parties? Seeing no objection, the exhibits are admitted. Do we have them numbered? We have them numbered in the... Okay. They're filed yesterday, so we will admit them as filed yesterday. So thank you. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Mr. Leonard, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fox, I've got a couple questions for you related to the two northern natural gas transmission lines that are on the property. Am I correct to say those two lines run roughly parallel to where this proposed pipeline runs?
That is correct.
And just to the north of the proposed pipeline here?
Now they actually put it to the south of the proposed. The pipeline proposed is south of the natural gas line.
Do you know how long those two natural gas pipelines have been there?
I believe 1958 and 1968.
Have you reviewed the written easements for those two gas transmission lines?
I've tried.
Do you know, is there a described right-of-way width for those easements, or are they blanket easements in favor of northern?
I believe there are 50-foot easements.
At present,
Although on our concept site plan it says 75 feet, which is the last page of my submission from yesterday.
at present, this site meets the site certification requirements. Is that your understanding?
Yes,
And it met those requirements with those two northern natural gas transmission lines in place, correct?
yes.
Was it your testimony earlier that Summit never offered an alternative route across this property in any of their negotiations?
I said they never approached us with a proposal to move it off the site. They had the proposal to move it around the actual site itself, and not to move it off-site.
So you were offered alternative routes on the property, they just
Yes.
didn't offer to move it off of the property, is
That
that
is
correct?
correct.
Sir, have you asked Quest if the development of this proposed pipeline would cause you to not meet the site certification requirements?
Yes,
What was the response?
we're safe. Everybody knows we're safe. It's going to be fine.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jorde?
Picking up on that last question, sir, over here, Mr. Fox. Hi. Picking up on that last question there, when you were answering that, who were you speaking for? Who said it's going to be safe and everything's fine?
The land agent,
The land agent for Summit?
yes,
Yeah, okay. So, not surprisingly, the company that wants to put the hazardous pipeline on your property is the one that told you, don't worry, everything will be safe, correct?
yes,
And they told you that there was a federal statute prohibiting them from moving the pipeline away from the existing natural gas pipelines, is that right?
yes.
Would you be surprised to know there's no federal statute that says that, and that was a lie?
I would be surprised.
Okay. Would you be surprised to learn there's no federal statute that states that hazardous CO2 pipelines must be co-located with existing natural gas lines?
I can see that, yes.
Okay. And so when you said this is in the city limits, this entire parcel we're looking at here is currently in the city limits of Charles City, is that right?
Yes, and I believe it was annexed into the city in 1996.
All right. And you would agree that your goals of expansion and this site as it sits right on a major intersection here is prime development property that need not be encumbered by a CO2 hazardous pipeline.
Correct.
The business, looks like there's an existing business on the map we're looking at, just to the south there of your property on the left. What type of business is that?
That's Hog Slat Incorporated.
Okay, and is your understanding that they own that land for potential future expansion there?
No, I think the person that we bought the land from owns that property.
Okay, very good. And did you say you had been working on trying to find an industrial site for expansion for some 20 years?
Yes,
All right, and I believe your testimony was that within the city limits of this type of industrial park with this type of potential for future growth and expansion, this is the only site that offers it up to that type of opportunity.
yes.
Did Summit, in the alternatives that Summit provided you, if any, were the routes further to the south of their preferred shown route on the screen there, or to the north, or where were they?
They were coming down here, going around, and then up.
Okay, and so other than them telling you that federal law prohibited them from moving the pipeline route, did they tell you anything of why they couldn't simply just go south out of the city limits?
I think the rationale was that they didn't want to go under the 4-lane.
Sure, that's their preference. They just didn't want to be bothered going under it. Not that they couldn't, correct?
To the best of my knowledge, that is correct.
All right. And would you be surprised to learn that they cross 4-lane roadways and highways at many places on their proposed route?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And I take it, sir, from your testimony and how you're presenting yourself, that when someone would tell you something, you would rely on it and accept it as truthful and not think that they were telling you something other than the truth. Is that right?
Yes,
And you relied on their representations when you would take information from communications with them and share it with your board, correct?
that is correct.
And related to the existing natural gas pipelines, are you aware of any industry or businesses in that area that utilize natural gas?
Yes,
And did you say you had a water line or electricity line as well? Easement?
water and sewer
Water and sewer, and I suspect that...
and electric.
And electric. And I suspect, sir, that any future users and development of this particular industrial park as you intend would be utilizing water sewer, electric.
Yes.
And have you had conversations with any potential developer or potential occupant of this property or future development that said we would really like to have a CO2 pipeline that we could put some CO2 into?
No.
Are you aware if Summit consulted or utilized the master plan or the future plan, future land use planning or comprehensive plan of Charles City prior to locating their proposed route across your parcel?
I do not believe they did.
And would you agree that a simple review of the master plan, in addition to what you obviously shared with them, would have enlightened Summit of the future development importance of this site in the growth of Charles City?
Yes, we can reference the Advent of the Saints Corridor Land Use Study of 1999.
And sir, has Summit ever shared with you any plume modeling or dispersion analysis or risk analysis to show you how dangerous their pipeline actually is?
No, I went to a safety meeting that Summit presented in Mason City, Iowa, but I don't think that the plume dispersion modeling was referenced at all.
Would you be surprised to learn that if an 8-inch CO2 pipeline rupture or release occurred on Summit's proposed route, that the plume could travel more than 2,600 feet?
Yes.
And would that concern you for any current located businesses and future potential businesses, occupants, customers of your industrial park?
Yes.
Sir, was there any more information about the exhibits that you provided to us here and that have been offered and received into evidence that you'd like to highlight before I conclude my questioning of you?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Nothing further.
Okay. Do the parties have any further questions? Okay, I believe there are some questions from the board. Board Member Burns?
Yeah. Mr. Fox, I don't know if you mentioned this or not. How long have you been in economic development?
For 28 years.
Okay. And all that time been in Floyd County or other places?
No, I started off as Buchanan County Economic Development Commission in Independence.
And so for the certified site, you got to go through, and I'm well aware of what it takes. It's very intensive to get that accomplished. One of the things in your exhibit that you mentioned was there was a portion in there that talked about you couldn't have easements, any prior easements on that certified site, but yet there's easements for for Northern Natural Gas.
Yes.
And that got exposed, if you will. That was made available to IEDA.
Yes,
Okay.
certainly.
And then, since this project has been proposed, have you talked to IEDA about the potential and what impact this would have on the certified site? Have you made a phone call to them?
Yes, I have.
And what was their response?
I don't think I'm in a position to answer for them. Quite frankly, it was a private conversation.
I do feel like it's pertinent to this as to how it affects. We're talking about the certified site.
IEDA has concerns.
Could those concerns jeopardize the certification of the site? Could they revoke it?
I don't believe so. That's IEDA. Quest Site Solutions, who they contract with, might have a different take on that.
And just to expand on them a little bit, what do they do? Do they give the stamp of approval?
Yes, they're out of South Carolina, and they work with Amy Kuhlers, who you may be familiar with at IEDA. and they administer the certified site program.
So as far as the Northern Natural Gas, the two pipes that go through there, is there offtake available for the development site? Can you pull gas from those lines?
I do not believe so.
Okay. And are you aware, what is the size of the pipe going through from Northern Natural Gas? Any
I do
idea?
not know.
Okay. And do you know what the size of the pipe being proposed by Summit is?
I do not recall.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things you mentioned here a little bit ago in your testimony, you said that there are no other development sites in Charles City. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I'm just curious, I just want for clarification purposes, what is the Southwest Development Site?
That is the park started in the 1990s, and we have limited space there that's developable. The lot by the road coming in, which is 8.52 acres, we destroyed making a water system improvements. So that's not usable, and that leaves us with 3 lots and a partial lot next to the water tower encompassing 19.08 acres. And as I mentioned previously, they really don't work for today's economic development projects because the lots are just too small.
What is the East Development Park?
That is a park that has machine tool engineering and a new USDA building and a pro cattle business, and that's about it. That park is full.
It's full, okay, thank you. And then what about Southgate?
Southgate is the Avenue of the Saints Development Park.
Are they considered 2 different development sites?
Yes, the right down here is Southgate, and up there is Southgate, and over here is Southgate.
So for clarity in the record, there are multiple sites, but there's only one certified site.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Is there, so you've been in this business for 28 years, and I understand there's always 2 sides. One of the things is, are you aware, what is CCS? Are you aware of CCS, or carbon capture storage?
I've seen the term.
Is that a term that you're seeing more frequently within, I'm assuming, do you attend conferences and been in the business 28 years, you're well versed. Do you stay up to date on the latest happenings in economic development?
I try to.
So carbon capture and storage, is that something that's being talked about within the economic development community?
Not to any great extent, I would say.
Okay. In your conversations with Summit Carbon Solutions, did you ever ask them if there was an opportunity to inject carbon at your economic development site if you were to recruit a company that would want that as a mechanism?
They informed us of that.
So it is possible.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay. Is it possible to, if you recruited a company that needed carbon, that you pull off of the pipeline?
Pardon me?
Is there a potential to pull carbon off the pipeline if it was a company that needed carbon?
Sure.
So you did have that conversation
Yes.
with the company. Okay, thank you. And you also stated that your community is part of the International Economic Development Council, correct?
I am a member of that,
Oh, so you're a member of it.
yes.
But just to clarify, what was the ranking? You said something about the community was ranked with that council.
Oh, we had the Accredited Economic Development Organization. We were the 69th community in the world to earn that designation, and what it does is shows that your economic development organization is doing everything professionally and ethically and returning value to the stakeholders.
I think that is all of my questions. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. You are excused.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wait, I've got a question. I got to follow up on Commissioner Burns.
Mr. Jorde?
Yes.
We discussed this yesterday.
What was that discussion?
That we will ask the parties questions, and then the board will ask questions, and then we'll be done. This is not your witness to rehabilitate. This is how we've handled our hearings for years. That's how we'll be handling it. I'll make it clearer next time that parties are always had an opportunity to ask questions, but we went over this yesterday.
So there's no opportunity to follow up on any board questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I would, I guess, lodge a due process argument for our appeal purposes on that ruling. And, motion to reconsider.
Well, you will have plenty of time to put your case on with your witnesses and rehabilitate as required. When we have, enter the more expanded non-intervening landowners and the board asks questions, you will absolutely have the ability to rehabilitate, but we do not do that.
Okay, that's fine. For the record, there's no difference from a witness is a witness, and any question should be allowed to be asked of any person who comes to testify. Thanks.
Ms. Ryan.
Republican legislator interveners for justice would like to join in Mr. Jorde's due process objection and his motion for reconsideration.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Fox. We appreciate it. You have a good day. The board will now call